There are a lot of things I could talk about in the pharmaceutical model today. We could talk about research. We could talk about managing the environment. But what I really want to focus on today is talking about the salespeople and the people that manage salespeople. Because as I said before, I believe this will continue to be an industry that needs salespeople. So first of all, I've had the privilege of participating in and helping to sponsor a lot of research. So Charlotte talked about the research and the need to do research and the new research model. I was one of those persons in the room that was asking the research people to go out and figure out what's going on in the market. Go out and tell me what is happening with our important customers. Interesting thing happened when I asked that question. So when I first was a sales representative, I won't say how long ago it was because then you realize how old I am. But when I was, one thing I knew, way back in the dark ages, I averaged 12 minutes with a physician. Today, with healthcare providers and key decision makers, how long do we have? Anyone? How long do we have? Anyone want to guess? Who would say we have 5 minutes today? Anybody says 3 minutes? 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes is what we have today. And these are at the lower level exchanges. Now, many of our companies, we've brought on scientific experts that we take in several markets, and they go out and they talk to key decision makers in our markets. And these medical science liaisons, they get a little bit more time than that. Medical science liaisons on average get 6 minutes. But here's the point. The reason I was able to get 12 minutes was not because I was a nice guy, not because I was a likable guy. But it was because when I was sitting with that physician or that nurse or that pharmacist or that decision maker, I would ask them one important question. What do you need in order to make your job more bearable? What do you need in order to accomplish your objectives for your job? And almost to a person, they would answer the same way, information. Now, the reason I share that story with you, because now I come full circle back to today. And when we talk to physicians today and we ask them, when we talk to decision makers, when we talk to pharmacists, when we talk to government regulators, and we ask, what is it that you need that would represent value from my company? And to a person, they all answer information. Now, different people need different kinds of information. But information is the key to your value proposition. I mentioned earlier that values in the value proposition, and the value proposition is what you create, then communicate and deliver. If you're not anchoring it in information and showing the value that you offer anchored in information, you're missing a valuable opportunity in which to demonstrate how you are different from your competitors. Because the key decision maker that we talk to says that there are 4 things they want from pharmaceutical companies, device companies, and other biotech companies. Number 1, help me make sure that the patients that I give care to are healthy, safe, and have good outcomes. Number 2, make sure that as I use your service delivery model, it helps me have a better quality of life. Number 3, I want to be respected in front of my peers. Can you help me look and be respected in front of my peers? And then lastly, again, it depends on which market you're in, but some markets that you're in, it depends on, they're asking, can you help me figure out how to make a better living? So again, that is a very market-specific comment. Depends on which market you're in. So the question is, what do we do? That's the environment that we're all managing. What do we do? And again, my focus for the next 15, 20 minutes is on the salesperson that you are out trying to put out in the marketplace and the people that are trying to manage those people. So first of all, how do we improve the sales efficiency and frontline sales productivity? Number 2, how can we support the development of the frontline manager? How can we support appropriate systems for alignment? And then, what is the selling process and measurements that we use in order to ensure that we're accomplishing steps 1, 2, and 3? How many of you are dealing with these kinds of challenges right now? Can I have a show of hands of those who are trying to manage through this right now? So quite a few hands in the room of people that right now today are worried about these issues. Okay. Let me share with you a journey that I believe all of us are on. So what we're looking at here is the selling model And this selling model, by the way, is a model that I've worked with an organization to validate in terms of what's happening in a selling model. And the selling model that I'm describing is a selling model that used to be transactional. You know what it looks like. It's when you go in and you ask the decision maker, will you use my product? And you focus only on your product. And you talk about how good your product is versus your competitor's product. You talk about what your product does and what it doesn't do. You talk about what your competitor's product does and what it doesn't do. That's transactional. Because the way you measure success in that model is by what? Market share. You reward success in that model by what? Market share or top-line sales results. If that's what you're doing today, you're in a transactional model. What I'm putting forward to you is a challenge that says we have to move beyond that transactional model. So this journey is that we're looking at the lower value interactions that exist today, and we know we have to move away from that. We move away from that in two ways. There are targets that we call on today that are lower value targets that we need to stop calling on. That's number one. Number two, as sales leaders, we have our most important resource, our people, involved in low value activity. We need to stop doing that. So again, I'll make a very cultural comment about the United States, and where in the United States, we pay people $75,000 a year to deliver pizza. Does that make sense? That does not make sense, because you can pay a pizza person $10 an hour to deliver that pizza. So again, we have to get people out of that low value work. We pay people $75,000 a year in many markets to deliver samples. There are delivery companies that can deliver those samples a lot cheaper than that. And there are ways to handle the issue depending on the market that you're in. If a provider has to sign for the samples, there are technology ways to be able to capture the physician's signature to make sure that it is being given to the appropriate person. My point is that there's two issues on this low value cycle. One is calling on low value targets. Two, getting our people out of low value activities and getting them away from transactional selling. Then we want to start moving to the right. As we start moving to the right, we want to call on the experts, the opinion, people who have opinions, and people who are making policy decisions. Well, if that's what we're going to do, we have to think of a different way of interacting with those individuals. So when you go in and you see a policy decision maker, the first thing they want to know is, do you have any outcomes data? Do you have any data that shows the cost avoidance associated with your product? In another life, I used to run our disease management group or company. And we spent lots of time doing disease management programs and doing outcomes research. The problem with that model was we were doing outcomes research and disease management models after the product was in the market. That doesn't work today. Many of the policy decision makers want to see the outcomes research and your disease management results as part of your application. So again, the currency in the relationship, as I said 10 minutes ago, is information. And if you're not wiring your companies in order to gather information and deliver it real time, you're missing out on a great opportunity. And then as we develop these relationships with the policymakers and decision makers, we're also finding that many of these decisions are being pulled geographically. So depending on which country you're in, right, there may be a body of individuals in the country that you're in that is going to make the decision as to whether or not your product gets reimbursed. It is important to understand what information they need. That is not something that we want our quote-unquote traditional sales representatives to do today. I believe that in most markets today, and there are three kinds of markets that are out there today. There's the mature market, where we absolutely have to, quite frankly, cut sales force capacity by 30 to 40%. Then we have the middle market, those markets that are not mature, but they are beginning to flatten out. Again, I think there's an opportunity that we're going to reduce capacity in those markets. And then we have the emerging markets. The difference is, for the emerging markets, we should not put the same selling model in those new markets that we have in the other two examples of markets. That would be a mistake, because we already know what's going to happen. Eventually, as that market matures, that new model that you put in that particular market will not be sufficient to deliver value. Let's keep going, because I understand that I am between you and a bio break, so I want to make sure that I move along as quickly as I can. So in order to have an impact on our selling model, there are three things that I want to look at really quickly. Number one, how do we drive commercial effectiveness at the front line? Number two, driving change through your line managers. And then number three, improving management capabilities in your organizations. So in order to drive commercial success at the front line, I believe that we have to replicate the behaviors of your best salespeople.